Well, a number of proposals are making their way through the legislature right now in an attempt to solve, of course, our state's budget shortfall and offset tax revenue losses. One bill aimed at bringing more film businesses to the state would create a non-refundable income tax credit for groups in certain counties. And another measure being discussed provides tax holidays for school supplies. It, of course, aims to create an exemption from the state's general excise tax for the purchase of school supplies, computers, clothing, and books, for, of course, to get ready for the school year. And here to talk about that is Sumner LaCroix from the University of Hawaii Economic Research Team and research organization. Let's talk about the consumer price index for Hawaii that just came out yesterday. Right. It rose by 1.7% in 2010. What does this mean for the average buyer out there?
Well, it means that the cost of an average market basket of goods rose by 1.7%. For this stage of an economic recovery, that's about normal. We predicted 1.9%. Actually, it's a little bit less than what we expected. If, however, you're a buyer of gasoline or electricity, gasoline went up by over 6%, electricity by over 13%. But the increases in almost everything else were very, very, very moderate.
Now, the Hawaii State Legislature is considering a proposal to increase the tax credit provided by the state of Hawaii to TV series and film production here in Hawaii. Considering the budget deficit that we have, $850 million for the next 2 years, is this a good thing for us?
Well, you know, we already have a 15% tax credit for TV and film productions here in Oahu and a 20% credit for TV and film productions on the neighbor island. To increase that to 35 and 40% respectively, I think during a time of a budget crisis is just a bad idea. I know that the credit has been supported by some celebrities. Cuba Gooding Jr. came here to testify. Bill Clinton.
Show me the money.
Bill Clinton submitted a written testimony on the whole thing. But you know, studies of these film and TV credits from other states have shown that when you increase it from moderate levels up to high levels, there tends to be big revenue losses in the part of the state, and it's very questionable exactly how much more TV and film production that we're going to get here. We already have quite a bit of business right now under the current credits. I think just given the state's budget situation, we really ought to be careful about increasing it further.
Now, what about tax holiday on school supplies, including computers and things like that? You think it's a terrible idea. Why?
I do, and I'm a teacher, okay? So I probably should be in favor of it, being a teacher.
You don't think more spending will be there if
no, and I think that the main problem is when you take one weekend and you say, okay, we're not going to have taxes on this particular weekend. All it's going to do is take sales from the preceding days. It's going to take sales from the weekend before, from the few days before, and the weekend after, and the few days after, and it's going to put them into this one weekend. It's not going to create that much more sales. It's a big tax loss for the state during this time when the state has a big budget deficit, and it will create large crowds and traffic during that particular period in time. If we really want to help school children, if we're looking there saying parents with school children are having a difficult time getting supplies for their kids, we ought to be giving them a bigger income tax credit. You know, there ought to be a larger tax deduction on the income tax form for parents with kids of school age. There's a much better tool to deal with this problem than the tax holiday being proposed. All right,
Sumner LaCroix, we thank you for all that information.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us here this morning. And of course, if you want to see this interview again, you can go to our website, kitv.com/thismorning. We'll post that interview by around 8 a.m. this morning after the show.
Well, we have more news, and for now, put your shades on.